to the day 2 of India Mobile Congress 2023. The session we have right now is Unveiled Horizons of Industry 4.0, benchmarking the adoption. I'll quickly call upon stage our moderator for this session, Mr. Saurabh Bhatnagar, partner with KPMG, to take over the session and take up the proceedings. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all? I don't need the mic. Okay, now I can hear. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session, last session of the day. It's on Industry 4, benchmarking the adoption. The title of the session, as you can see, assumes that there is the whole world of Industry 4, which is unveiling itself in front of us in different ways. It is a very complicated combination of new age technologies as we get to hear of them. And that's complicating the rate at which you can adopt such technologies in the future. Right? And therefore, what could be the potential adoption barriers and how could they be potentially solved is what this panel is going to talk about and perhaps unveil and solve for over the next about 45 minutes. My name is Saurabh Bhatnagar. I'm a partner with KPMG. I run the Industry 4 vertical as a practice in KPMG. We just believe that there is so much to do and so much to solve for in the world of Industry 4 in the future that we thought it was just the right thing to do to create a new vertical with new people, new capabilities in this world. To begin the session, I would want the panelists to quickly introduce themselves and also, in their own views, demystify the whole world of Industry 4 in their own ways and their own experience. It's a very rich panel of experience, a lot of years of experience behind them. And therefore, when they introduce themselves and who they are, what they do, and what they have been doing over the years, I would also like them to throw some initial light on what this whole complex world of Industry 4, the terms that you get to hear when you hear of Industry 4 are AR, VR, AI, ML, digital twins, blockchain, connectivity, network, 5G, and so on and so forth, which is pretty complicated. But here are the people who can help you understand this better with the introductions to this particular audience. Over to you, Saurabh.
Thanks so much, Saurabh, and thanks so much all for joining us here. Welcome to IMC 2023. My name is Saurabh Tiwari. I'm the CTO for Dell Technologies in India. Very quickly, so what really is Industry 4.0? I just wanted to quickly demystify that, as Saurabh you mentioned. So the whole concept is the ability to connect sensors and actuators, okay, and enable the data that is being generated by those sensors, the actuators, to derive meaningful business critical insights, which would essentially help the business process, okay, to run more optimally, enable insights from discrete corners or discrete domains of the industry, of a city, of a manufacturing plant, of a country, or perhaps even multiple plants located across countries, as is in the case of, let's say, Airbus, where you've got manufacturing which is happening pretty much all over the planet. You've got assembling which is happening in France, you've got engines which are being manufactured by Rolls-Royce in England, you've got avionics being manufactured in Germany, okay? You've got displays and batteries being manufactured in South Korea and Japan, and all of that is essentially come together and creating an aircraft. And that's what we do at Dell Technologies as well. We have a just-in-time approach where customers place orders on us. And we've been using the Industry 4.0 actually since its inception for a very, very long time. We don't have any inventory. Customers place orders on us and we just go ahead and manufacture to an order. So there is a zero inventory concept in Dell Technologies itself. Now, essentially from why do you really need it? One objective of doing this is reduce space. The other objective is to ensure that we have better quality control. And then finally, the ability to make sure that your manufacturing, the quality itself, the innovation in the product, as well as the reach of the product, okay, is based upon the demand of the market, okay? So very, very quickly to sum it all without taking too much time, I know it's the last session of the evening, that's a very, very quick, roundup of the topic. Thanks.
Thank you, Saurabh. So efficiency, productivity, quality, all of these are the hallmarks of what outcome one should expect, typically when you talk of Industry 4. So thanks a lot. I grew up in a world where we spoke of Flintstones. How many of you have heard of Flintstones? Yeah, great, thank you, ma'am. We heard of Flintstones, and then there was this other thing which is called Jetsons. Have you heard of Jetsons? Have you heard of Star Trek, Dr. William Shatner, and all those things? And they used to look at those things that they used to, speak into TVs, and they used to, have these little walkie-talkies, and they just had this big command and control center to run the spaceship. And we used to think, wow, what science fiction. But the fact is, Industry 4 is actually making it happen for us now, and it's all developing very fast and very quickly. So, Amit, over to you. Why don't you help us unveil and demystify Industry 4 in your own word?
Thanks, Saurabh. Yeah. My name is Amit Sethi. I head 5G solutions worldwide for TCS. Basically, my role is to deploy Industry 4.0 solution over 5G private network. Now, in a simple term, Industry 4.0 has always been there. It's nothing new. However, when you deploy digital transformation, which is again automation of physical and also digital sensors basically, and also the solutions, this is where power of ultra low latency and also high uplink speed gives you benefits of 5G. The issue with Industry 4.0 adoption so far has been data security. And this is where, 5G comes as, a sustainable technology which can guarantee, if not 100%, then at least 5 nines, where data security can be ensured, mainly because data resides with enterprises. The main problem is when people, talk about 5G, they only see 5G signal indicator in their smartphone and they say this is 5G. No, this is actually about the consumer segment. 5G comes into the picture when enterprises have to transform their businesses. There is, in India, there is very, I would say, lack of adoption. Main reason being the spectrum was allocated last year only. And for all the trials, POCs, the value benefits, you need to conduct a lot of research basically. And this is where, Western part of the world has been very advanced with the trials. Now, Industry 4.0 comes with some challenges as well. There is nothing called ready use case. It's a custom tailored made solution based on the pain point of the enterprise. We have to provide them right solution in order to transform their business. So this is where, Industry 4.0 adoption comes into the picture. And then when you do that with real 5G, that comes with a private 5G network, not with the network slicing, because with private 5G network, not 5G public network with the network slicing, because the data resides with the enterprises. And when it comes to network slicing, the data goes to the core of MNOs. And then, you have to actually rely on settings or quality of services of the core basically, which is meant for public network, which is very voice centric, while automation in the industries is all about data centric, because you are talking about M2M devices there, right? So that's my take on Industry 4.0. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit. I'm reminded of the famous quote, right? Water, water everywhere. Don't have a drop to drink it. Now it's about data, data everywhere. But I think the point that you made is I need the data, but the use case is where the value really lies. You have to define the use cases, you have to create a business case for it, and then be able to get the real value of the 5G networks. The other point you made is 5G is a critical enabler, but it has to be deployed in the right way. So thank you, Amit. Next participant, Magnus, over to you. Please introduce yourself and your take on Industry 4 and its future.
Okay, so I'm Magnus Hubring, CTO Asia Pacific for Ericsson. Now, at Ericsson, we started very early in the 5G thinking. 2015, our research group formed a program called 5G for Industries. We didn't have 5G at that time, so we took the best 4G we could get over. And we went in with ambition to learn about factories, learn how they use their flows today, how they reconfigure, and what they log and what they steer. So the aim was not really to educate them about 5G. We would take that later. The aim was for us to understand how do factories work. And very quickly we started to drive insights. Insights of the value of cutting the wire, the value of amassing a lot of data, and making sure that you can process it in a smart way. And very quickly we understood that the first aim that we were out for, we could quickly reach. But once we came to that level, we had new insights, and then we could derive values far beyond that of higher monetary value. And that has, we've had a number of cases in that. And I think we come back to that in a little bit, but I can give one example of in one of our own factories where we early started to put in a simple vibration sensor on pneumatic screwdrivers. So we measured when they were used. Now, by just knowing that, we could do preventive maintenance. We didn't have to wait for them to break down. We could go there at a bay and quickly swap them. No disruption in the manufacturing flow, and just do a retouch of the screwdriver, less maintenance cost. Once that was done, two things happened. The people in the factory, they would never remove it, right? Or it was just a research gig, so to say. They never removed it. It was there to stay. Second thing, we realized, well, if we can do that, we can also measure the torque that's being applied to individual screws. And if we do that, we can assure that every product is built according to specifications. Thereby, product quality goes up and product return goes down. The value of that is significantly higher than the gain we got by going over to preventive maintenance. But we didn't have that insight until we were in there, starting to onboard use case by use case.
Thank you. Thank you, Magnus. It appears to me that there's much that happens. It appears to me that there's much that happens in Industry 4. And it is but the right thing to do for any firm. It has to be competitive in the future, clearly. It's very obvious from all the comments that we just heard, right? Whether it's smart manufacturing, smart cities, smart hospitals, smart infrastructure, what have you. The question, therefore, in my mind is, why isn't every other firm be able to do it as easily as it sounds, right? There must be barriers to entry. There must be some issues, challenges, which are about people, infrastructure, money, incentivization, perhaps even regulation. And I think somebody said even data security, for example, right? And I'm going to touch upon some of these points in the next round of discussion that we're going to have. Amit, I'll start with you, right? What has been your experience on journeys taken by organizations who wanted to do something on Industry 4, but had barriers to entry? What did they do? What methodologies did they apply? And speak about their success in future. What happened eventually? Some stories. Thank you.
So, in reality, what happens is there has to be lack of, there has been lack of, clarity on data security and also, courage to go for a rapid transformation. Companies basically have been hearing about 5G, have been hearing about digital transformation, but the risk appetite is low. Uh, First of all, top management of the organizations, they need to be involved and they need to understand clearly on what is in there for them with the transformation. When they understand the real value, and of course it comes with, technology is not a, real barrier basically. It's more of a, ROI justification. So how much you have to deploy capex opex versus what is the revenue uptake. While when we do business calculations, we know in every industry when we transform a process, what is going to be the operational efficiency improvement. Usually based on the trials, we have seen operational efficiency is somewhere around 10 to 15%. Depending on the industry, it can vary, but the average is around 10 to 15%, even with the moderate transformation, not full rapid transformation. So when organizations, when they do all the business calculations, they are not very clear on how they will be able to uplift the revenues because the initial capex is very high. And again, they are worried if they actually invest a lot of money in it, whether they'll be able to recover the money. But they are not thinking the long-term strategies behind investment basically. So normally we have seen when we do business calculations, that of course comes with the architecture of the solution basically. So normally break even is close to 1 year, plus and minus again. And then second year onwards is where revenue increase starts. So when you consider a business case, it has to be long term, 3 year or 5 years, I would say. In 5 years, it can be 20 times, it can be 10 times, it can be 30 times. But for sure, for everybody, the revenue uptake is there. And this is where once they actually, deploy the strategy behind adopting Industry 4.0, there has to be a roadmap of how they want to start, what all use cases they have to deploy. Of course, it has to be in a phased manner. Nothing can start in a mass productivity. So first, there has to be a trial, POC, before going to the scale, basically. And then once they are convinced that whatever was promised as part of the assured KPI, they are able to recover, or witness all those improvements, then only they should go for the mass deployment. And of course, every industry, like we name it, manufacturing or, telecommunications, or it can be, drone-based surveillance in every industry, basically. This is where we have seen that when, experts goes to all the, industries who are looking for transformation, they talk about, the first thing they talk about is, what is your pain point? When you understand the pain point, sometimes, I've also seen industries are unclear about the pain points. So you have to actually, understand what is their current process, be it manual, be it labor-oriented, factory basically. So let's hear it out. What is their current process? And basis current process, in maximum 3 or 4 days, you will come out with, the use cases that make sense for that industry. Now, manufacturing plants, I have seen a lot of people are, always hearing that, okay, I already have, some processes which we have deployed. We have ERP system. What else you have for us? So this is where, I'll give you one example which comes to the use case, definition basically. This is where this is called discovery phase when you initially talk to the enterprises. Visual stimulus of humans has a reaction time of 250 milliseconds, meaning when you are looking at other direction, you will actually react 4 times in 1 second, 250 milliseconds. While 5G offers on-premise deployment with edge computing, it offers 5 milliseconds. So we are talking about automation 5 millisecond versus 250 millisecond. So we are actually saying 5G is 50 times faster than human beings. So imagine the factories or processes which are highly dependent on human manpower, and they are saying, I'm happy with it. Why do I go for the transformation? They have to see the power behind 5G. And this is what we call true Industry 4.0 adoption over 5G private network. I would re-emphasize not on the network slicing. So this is where, if we are saying 5G is 50 times faster than a human being, meaning human beings are working in some factories, three shifts in a day, 8 hours, one shift, 24/7 they are working, which is practically not possible because the productivity of every human being is 60 to 70%. Even though you have 100 people, you will actually get the productivity of 60 to 70% only. Versus when you deploy sensors or robots with the conveyor belt, fully automated manless operations, this is where you get the real 24/7 operations without any human error, because data science is doing things for you. And again, with the video analytics, with the robotics, with the 5G on-premise, you're ensuring the process and the speed of any industry becomes much faster. And this is where we prove as part of the POC. So I think back to where we started basically. So for the companies who are looking for adoption of Industry 4.0, they really have to identify the use cases as part of the discovery phase. Then actually they have to go for architecture of complete solution, then partner ecosystem, high level diagrams, then it comes to low level diagrams where SOW, complete roadmap has to be there in a phased manner. And then it comes to the trial. After trial, once the benefits are proven, then you have to go for a mass deployment. So this has to be a phased manner.
So thanks, Amit. I'm just taking some notes while you spoke the words of wisdom. I captured it as get the top management aligned, have a stage-gated journey, provide for budgets for doing some trials and experiments, experiment fast, fail fast, and then continue to go there, and have an ROI-based use case, or otherwise it's not going to see the light of the day. Thank you very much. 5G is anyways a key enabler, so thanks. One of the things that you mentioned as a word was an ecosystem in your discussion right now. An ecosystem here seems to be pretty large, right? You would need people who are providing telecom services, people who understand the domain very well, people who run the operations every other day, and people who also understand analytics and data science in order to make value case credible and believable. So Magnus, talk to us, please, on this whole ecosystem story of what it takes to run predictable, useful, value-driven use cases on Industry 4.
Okay.
Talk to us. Thank you.
So the ecosystem challenge is certainly there. Coming from the mobile side, we're used to manage, let's say, 3 to 5 chipset vendors, manage 10 to 15 smartphone vendors. And it's vastly different as we go into industrial use. If you go into a factory today, a wired factory, it works very well in many aspects. You have lots of machines, you have lots of sensors and control machinery, etc. And it's wired and it works. But none of that is ready for 5G. So we have to get that part of the industry to adopt and become wireless. And we want it to become wireless because that's the way to unleash the flexibility and possibilities that we can have without the wires. As a side note, company we work with, their rule of thumb is a standard factory has about 800 kilometers of wires. Add to that in modern manufacturing you want quickly to reconfigure your factory. Well, you don't want to reroute 800 kilometers of wires. So getting the wireless devices there is crucial. And that's a long journey. It started, but much more needs to be done. We're having programs in Ericsson where we qualify, test, do interoperability testing with devices, with different kinds of industrial devices, module makers, with software vendors, with system integrators, and making sure they get a blue tick in the sense that we know they know to operate our equipment, they know that they can be connected with our equipment and it will work. And that's, I humbly say, is a good piece of work, but it's still enormously small compared to the broad ecosystem that's out there and is being wired. Now, that's a reality, right? It's the wireless industry is a newcomer in this space. The good thing is, of course, that there's an early mover advantage. And I think just reflecting on the inauguration yesterday, PM Modi unleashing 100 university systems, that's a good test bench for startups to come in and see if their devices are connectable to the 5G systems. That's one way of grooming a ecosystem. Any nation that's early out here over the next couple of years to come will have a early mover advantage. The industry will need to have wireless devices, and it will grow, but there's space for initiative for sure.
Thank you, Magnus. One of the enablers, which is there on my list, I think most of them were covered by Amit, and then subsequently you, Magnus, is that when you're handling data, right, even if it's a 5G network, it's prone to get challenged by hackers, right? And therefore, when you run a successful Industry 4 change, you necessarily have to worry about security. And Saurabh, I would request you to please sort of enlighten us on this whole aspect of OT security or 5G enabled networks which are running factories, and how does data security play an important role in that? I think it's something which is less understood, but I think equally important, because the implications of that are significantly higher than what it would be in a data security issue on an enterprise network. But in a factory setup, we talk about safety, we talk about accidents, and those kind of things. So tell us more, please.
Absolutely. So from a safety point of view, let me give you an example to begin with. So we're all using some sort of a smartphone, right? So whether it's an Android device or an iOS device or a Windows device or Mac OS or iPad OS, okay? I think we're looking at applications which are being updated on a weekly basis, operating systems being updated on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So updates are always going to be a key part of ensuring that you have security and safety built into the overall architecture. In addition to that, what we also need to look at is the interoperability. When you upgrade one thing, update one piece of software, the other one needs to be updated as well. Okay, you need to have interoperability while you do so. At the same time, you need to make sure that you don't spend too much time making those updates, and those are happening in a predictable manner. So all of those things are something that standards themselves allow us to do. For example, if you look at older SIM cards, okay, or just SIM cards, you used to have something called SIM OTA, SIM over-the-air updates. If you look at Apple or Android devices, they're all upgradable over the air. So you can never ever have an ecosystem which is 100% secure. As someone very wise, not me, but someone very wise used to say, for every higher wall, you have a taller ladder, right? So nothing is ever going to be 100% secure. So that is one part. The second part is looking at the standards themselves. So the good folks at 3GPP have, in their infinite wisdom, worked out something called something Amit and Magnus both touched upon, which is network slicing, right? So that inherently brings in a significant amount of security if the same public infrastructure is being used for private networks or industrial networks. However, from experience, we always recommend that we should have a fallback option. And that comes from talking to customers in manufacturing firsthand who are still using, unfortunately, PLCs which are running Windows 95, Windows CE. And that is something that becomes really challenging to both assess, secure, because you can't secure something like that. So there, the way they do it is they say, look, it's up and running. We disconnect it from any kind of wired or wireless network. Okay, we don't allow anyone to touch it. It is physically access controlled. It is on, it's been on for the last 5 years. We're not going to touch it, we're not going to move it. Okay, because the moment we do that, something's going to break. So that obviously can't be a credible way of managing things. So again, for those, we've got solutions where you should have a wired backup plan. Maybe it reduces your productivity, but at least will keep you in game, right? It won't completely shut down your production, right? So that's always something. Another aspect is always have wired connectivity for places. I know this is the Mobile World Congress, but always for things which are incredibly critical, always have solid wired connectivity, okay? And I'm sure even PM Modi would not be talking on a wireless hotline to the Prime Minister of Pakistan or the President of the US, right? Those are all solid hardwired connections. So sometimes the good old stuff really works. No matter how much encryption you build in, if someone can't access it, if it's air-gapped, then it is like 99.9% secure. But still, anything which has wires running on it, okay, it's going to emit electromagnetic radiation, so you can build an antenna so that it can tap into it, and you can use something to decrypt it as well. You've got a lot of AI coming into the play. You've got a lot of compute. I remember someone saying at one point in time that the compute that was required to send the first man on space is something that someone in class 12 uses in a rudimentary scientific calculator, right? So that's something that is always going to be a challenge. That's it. Thanks.
Saurabh, thank you so much. I think the aspect of data security, given the change of pace of technology on having to move data, is critical to understand. And I think all of us should have enough and more time being spent on it. Otherwise, there's a likelihood of people who are trying to do funny things on the network. So thank you. Gentlemen, in the interest of time, one more question to each of you, but try and please answer it in the next 3 minutes, right? We discussed the following. We discussed what is Industry 4. We discussed the barriers to adoption, and many of you answered it. I think you said security, then you said this whole approach to getting Industry 4 enabled in a firm. There are various things to be done. And Magnus talked about 5G and its implications, and that being a key enabler of the future because it's got speed and it's got capacity. I think the next question, it's in my mind, maybe it's out of syllabus, is about the impact, right? What 5G, or not 5G, but Industry 4 can make in the future. And people are talking about everything smart. It's a smart factory, there's smart cities, there's smart agriculture, there's smart retail. And of course, to me, as a person, the greatest and the best example of deployment of such technologies is Chandrayaan, for example, or a traffic collision avoidance system which works on aircrafts, right, which is running between so many aircraft, they're communicating with each other, and they still don't crash. The traffic of aircrafts over the Delhi airport has gone up 15 times in the last 6 years, right? But still, touch wood, nothing has gone wrong. And that's, to me, a great example of how networks which are set up in a manner which cannot be violated through security reasons. There's enough and more research and development that's got in to make them in the way they work, right? To keep us secure, safe, and happy. So the question to you, gentlemen, one-on-one, and 3 minutes, crystal ball view of the Industry 4 technology development in the next 10 years. How do you see it, right? Take the examples and use cases, smart factories, smart agri, smart telecom network management, one by one. I'll start with you, Saurabh, on smart factory first, and then Amit, I'll leave it to you on what you want to talk about, the crystal ball gaze, and Magnus, over to you as a last comment on this topic. Over to you, Saurabh.
Right, so I think one of the biggest hindrances, if I start with them, is the incredibly vast array of interfaces. You've got RS-232, you've got Ethernet, power over Ethernet, you've got so many wired interfaces, you've got comms, so on and so forth. So a unified interface needs to be made available so that that can feed into, let's say, a 5G or a 4G modem. And then, of course, is the ability to actually have the modem in the first place. Let's say, for example, if a hospital wants to put an MRI machine onto a 5G network, does it actually have a modem? No, the legacy machines won't have a modem. They might have an Ethernet port, they might have a USB port, but definitely not, a port for a modem. So factories will have a bunch of these discrete and diverse systems, which will need to be, homologated, let's say. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we are looking at. And that is the reason why we build solutions which can, act as a convergence device and then enable a 5G network to basically use a 5G network to backhaul it to a core. Thanks.
It's a must-have, otherwise enterprises are not going to survive. One killer use case that I would like to re-emphasize is capability of 5G drones to work on a beyond visual line of sights, especially for surveillance of towers, where you actually only resolve the issues when there is a problem. So nobody is looking at proactive health measurement of those towers like rust, corrosion, bird nest. There can be a lot of issues that tower companies or telecommunication is only addressing when there is a real issue. But once a week, autonomous drones, you send out to one cluster doing the survey for you, and it comes back with the health analysis of all those towers or antennas for that matter. This is where, when the problem comes, you already have a solution. So you are attacking the problem even before it appears. So there is no problem. And humanly, it costs a lot of money and also risk for the riggers or technicians who climb on the towers. With the drones, spiral-based, surveillance within second done, and you have all the analysis in hand with you.
That's your small view. Magnus, over to you.
Okay, thank
Magnus,
you.
over to
Well,
you. What's your crystal ball view of the industry for the future? And what are the use cases that you are having in mind to make this world a better place to live in?
Okay, so I think a key thing here is to become data-driven, to leverage on the knowledge of data, do so in real time, and allow the production flow to adapt thereto. Few examples. We serve or have installed systems in a number of ports and airports. One example, there are automatically guided vehicles that drive the containers to the right position. By just knowing where they are, by just knowing where they should go, optimizing the routes, they could optimize the length that an AGV could drive with 15%. Now, how much savings does that do you on having fewer vehicles? Is an easy knockoff, right? But if you don't know where it is, know where it should go, you can't optimize it. Wireless connectivity, you can do that very easily. One car manufacturer, in a crucial part of the production flow, they went over to, instead of having a conveyor belt, having flexible flow of material and putting it together in a best come for the purpose they had. They optimized the flow of that part with over 30%. Is there a value with that? Of course. But you need to know where things are. You need to know how you can adapt to incidents, etc., and optimize your throughput. You do that by being wirelessly connected and then leverage on that in real time. And I think that will be a crucial contributor to Industry 4.0 going forward.
Thank you, Magnus. With this gentleman, I'll just take 2 minutes to summarize what we've captured in all the wisdom that I gathered over the last, 35, 40 minutes. First things first. One is, there's no choice, right? Everyone who wants to live a different world and live in a different way of working has to be understanding the gamut of the opportunities that now arising because of Industry 4. There are implications of that, which means there are barriers to entry. Had it been a dollar lying on the ground, people would have picked it and everything would have been different. But it's not going to be that easy. There are challenges, there are difficulties, and there are problems, starting with management looking at their own problems and their own program in a very structured manner over the next few years. Adoption of 5G technology is a given. The sooner people embrace it, understand it, and go for it, especially for running day-to-day operations in factories and other supply chains, the sooner the better. Security is going to be an important determinant of success. If not done, even though I think you said 99.9% is always possible, 0.1% gap would always be there, but still, there are ways of making it work, and sooner the better. Finally, the impact of Industry 4 is yet to be seen in the way it will show itself in India, given the amount of focus that India is putting on manufacturing as a nation, Atmanirbharta, and the focus on manufacturing. Industry 4 is the way to go ahead. Gentlemen, Saurabh, Amit, Magnus, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to all of you. It's been so nice to hear your comments and your accumulated wisdom over the last so many years in this space. Saurabh signing off. Thank you very much. I think, Saurabh, you can't just run away like that. Wait a second. I think on behalf of the organizers, and there's a small token of appreciation for your coming and spending time with us. Magnus, sorry, Amit. Magnus, thank you for coming. Yeah, thank you.